right, Aftershocks TV, we got a great one today for you folks, as we've got some heavy rock royalty joining us on the show tonight. As this gentleman and his psychedelic rock band, the Freaks, are getting ready to hit the road for a slew of live dates starting at the end of August. And if everyone, of course, knows him from his days as the drummer in legendary SoCal stoner heavy rock outfits Fu Manchu and Nebula, we've got Mr. Ruben Romano. He joins us on Aftershocks. What's up, Ruben? Thanks for coming on, man. How are you?
Man, thank you for having me. It's going great. Thank you, man.
Awesome, man. You recovering nicely from vacation of yours there?
Yeah. I was able to get a Dodge for about a week, So
nice. Very cool.
Yeah, it was well deserved. It was more for a family regroup and stuff, So, but sometimes it's more work than work.
Sure.
That's you before.
Oh yeah. I totally feel you, man. Absolutely. That whole vacation away from vacation type of thing, man. I totally hear you.
Right.
Cool,
Just
man.
To catch up on the afterwards, like, oh, the vacation's great, but then when you come home, you got to catch up. Like,
you got a lot of stuff. Yep. Yeah. Totally, man. Well, cool, man. Well, let's get into the Freaks, man. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in the band's camp right now at the moment. I mean, you guys are gearing up, I know, for a nice Southwest run at the end of the month. You've got a new album that just came out this past spring called Miles of Blues. We'll definitely get into that in a little bit here. And then, of course, a couple of big additions to the band over the last few years as well that we'll talk about as well. So, Ruben, if you don't mind, I guess just, start us off by giving us, I guess, a brief update on what's going on with the live dates you have coming up. I know there's some great classic lineups and some of those dates that will definitely make some old school heavy rock fans of yours from the 90s very happy. So talk a little bit about that to start things off.
We're just really kind of happy that we're able to start doing this again. I mean, everybody throughout the world, I think, is ready to start moving again, after the last couple of years. But we're playing a bunch of shows coming up, and it's kind of fun because my new band is going to be playing with my old band, so there's a little bit of a reunion. We actually are going to open up for the mighty Fu Manchu coming up, and that kind of starts the whole kind of leave the summer, enter the fall kind of run of shows we got going on, So the first one's pretty cool because we're playing with Fu Manchu, and we're doing a couple of other things that are going to kind of take us out to New Mexico and slingshot us back around, So we are actually going to hit the road to get to New Mexico, Taos, New Mexico. I guess that anchor point is the Monolith on the Mesa festival out in Taos. So, we got invited to play that. We were all happy, I think for the last 2 years, even, like 2 years ago, or even before the pandemic, I started talking with the guys at Monolith, and, I was determined. I was like, one of these days I'm going to get us onto that bill, and they were all like, yeah, man, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen, So eventually, after all the kind of hoopla, man, finally we were able to kind of, solidify a date on that festival. So we were kind of going, well, to get out to New Mexico from California, let's kind of like land a couple of more spots on, stops to route out there. So that's been the kind of the plan, and we're almost kind of finished with confirming all those shows. We're going to be doing with this young band called Fever Dog. I don't know if you guys ever heard of them, but they're pretty awesome. They're total young kids, and but you would think that they would be a T-Rex main support,
Wow.
Because they're all kind of, in their silver lame. I mean, they kind of dressed apart. I think that they stay and dress like the entire time. They're like just living their lives, So I can imagine these young kids showing up in like tight, like silver sparkle pants with platform shoes, walking into a 7-Eleven, wanting to pump gas to get to the next show. So we're really excited to be able to kind of do a small run with them. It's almost kind of like old legends with these new legends that are about to be, and then we got a couple other things that are kind of happening afterwards. So it's all kind of landed into kind of like for us by ourselves, just a bigger tour than just the little tour announcement thing that we did with Fever Dog. We have extra dates after that and a couple of dates before. So we're just excited to be able to do this again. It's been way too long. I think the last time, well, we did a small thing earlier this year, but the last time anything that was like, an extended tour or anything, that's like 2017, 2018.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So everybody's kind of itching to get back on the road and, get some white line fever again. So
absolutely, yeah.
So that's part of that's what's going on with the tours. You know, I think we're doing Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and a bunch of dates here in Southern California. So full Southwest tour, man. You know, like with this band, without that band. But as far as for us, you know, we're just kind of trying to tack on more dates and just get more active.
Fantastic, man. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, let's talk about too. Like I mentioned before, you guys have a new record that came out in the spring, Miles of Blues. You know,
Got
it's
it right here, dude.
there it is. Well, yeah, we're gonna bring it up also right here and add to the stream.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's like I said, this is a self. You know, you guys release this now on your own. I know the listeners can go and buy the album digitally as well as on CD. But what's interesting too is, and I applaud you really for doing this. I wish more bands would. No streaming. I don't see it on there. I don't see it on YouTube. And I guess I won't get much into that discussion because I could talk about that thing all day, you know, about the music business and the streaming and all that crap. But it's an absolute great listen, this record. And of course, just, you know, your fans and myself included, you know, I look at that record, I'm like, man, I want that thing on vinyl, especially if to listen to it. Because, you know, for this type of music you guys play in the style, it's just tailor-made for that musical format. So I guess just fill us in on what you plan now on doing with the record. I mean, you're going to release it just the way it is right now? Or you're going to get it on vinyl? Or you're going to do something else? But just give us the plan, I guess, what you're going to do with Miles of Blues.
Right. There is a plan, and there is kind of a bit of a backstory on why we release it the way we did. It is an EP, right? And on the particular, you know, we put it out on a digipack, but the whole thing that kind of started was we were invited from some friends of mine down in Australia. We're going to do a 12-inch split with a German label called Cosmic Artifacts.
Yeah, sure.
And they asked us if we wanted to be on the other side of their split. So we were like, sure. You know, I mean, during the whole pandemic and stuff, we kind of felt that we were our own kind of, you know, we don't really go out much or party much. I mean, we kind of, our social life right now is getting together at rehearsal and jamming, and we're having a great time doing that. So we kind of felt that we were, you know, in our own little safety pod. So we kind of isolated together, and that's when we kind of just started recording. So we did have the material to say, yeah, we'll do that split with you, you know? And so that's going to happen, right? It's going to be a 12-inch final split. But you know how the whole industry is now with the delays on vinyl pressing and all that stuff. So everybody was cool with like, hey, the label, they only want to put it on vinyl. They don't want to deal with any of the CD crap or any of the streaming crap. They are just like vinyl, you know, hounds, and like that's the way it is. It's just vinyl. So we came up with the idea because the other band, they released their portion of the split digitally. So we were like, well, we could do that as well, you know, throw it up onto our Bandcamp site, press up a couple of digipacks, but you know, 4 songs on a digipack was like, well, that's just not enough. So to kind of make it more viable for us to kind of throw a little bit of cash in, just kind of stamp these guys up, we did add about 5 bonus tunes because, like I said, we had a bunch of stuff already recorded. So we decided, hey, let's do what Robot God did. That's the name of the band from Australia, Robot God. They pretty rad, heavy 3-piece. So, you know, I kind of cleared I cleared it and said, hey, is it okay if we release it digitally? And everyone's like, well, yeah, you know, the label just wants to do vinyl, so don't worry about digital with the label. We don't want to sit here for 10 months waiting for that to show up when we were itching to get out and, you know, start getting active and to play these songs. I mean, I think as of right now, since we recorded and released this, we have like a whole other, you know, material for a whole other record. So we want to keep this ball, we want to keep this ball kind of rolling, you know. That's how we decided to, you know, kind of make it a little bit more intimate with the fans, if you will. Like, hey, get it directly from us, you know, that helps us, you know, supports us a little bit financially with it, but also kind of makes it more kind of like, you know, intimate with the fans. Like, hey, man, if you're getting it directly from us, you're not gonna be able to get it from anywhere else. So yeah, and you know, also it's just was wasn't financially viable for us to actually look for any of those streaming outlets with this particular thing. So that was kind of like, you know, the intention on keeping it within our wings. And when you want one, we'll pull it out from our wings and hand it to you direct. And it seemed to be going pretty good with that. You know, I think people appreciate that. People still love the hunt. I mean, I do. I love hunting out.
Oh yeah.
Music. I mean, that's the funnest part of it, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So so that's the company you won't really find out on any streaming. Not that it's not maybe going to happen in the future after the vinyl is released. I think our plan is we have the bonus tracks on this digipack, but we also have these bonus tracks that we might be able to use for a future release when we can, you know, press up some more vinyl. So we kind of have this little bit of a bucket behind us that we're able to pull these songs out to kind of move into the future. So this is where we're at now. This is what we put out by ourselves, you know, get it directly from us, and that helps us. And we always like to throw in a bunch of bonus stuff for a thank you, you know. So you're not just gonna, you know, if they order this from us, it's not just going to be here's, you know, a CD that's thrown into a bag. We kind of, you know, sometimes get together and like, hey, let's sign all these ones, you know, all right, let's throw a bucket of stickers in there, you know, like, hey, we got some patches, let's throw some patches in there. So that's the way we're trying to move with this one. They're trying to keep it more kind of you know, in-house.
Sure.
Totally. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm glad you get those other 5 songs. I hope you do something with those, because those are, and we'll talk about the songs in a minute, but those are some great songs on there. I would definitely hope those aren't just kind of put to the wayside, and especially when you got the next full length that comes out, you know. So I'm glad you are going to do something with those songs as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those teasers in a way, you know, like make a digipack that's viable enough and worth it to, you know, the people to kind of, you know, spend their hard-earned money, you know, to us rock and rollers here. Well, we're dancing upon your paycheck, you know. You know, those songs were kind of the first batch that we were really kind of starting to kind of get together with the whole new lineup of the band. I'm sure it's probably something you might want to.
Oh yeah. We're going to get into
out here in a little bit. So this is kind of like the new Freaks mock. I don't even know what mock number it is at this point. But this is the most solid kind of lineup that we had. And I feel that I'm in a much better position where I've always should have kind of stayed. But, you know, challenges are challenges, and you try and meet them, and you have a good time doing it. And here we are with this kind of new set of Freaks here.
Sure. Well, yeah, let's talk about those new additions with the new mock here. I mean, let's start off first. Obviously, you've brought in now a new vocalist. You got Jason Hubner. Tell us why you brought in Jason. Why'd you bring him on board as really the band's, I guess, first, like, just, you know, main vocalist? I mean, I know obviously you've handled the vocal duties over the years, but he's now actually just a vocalist only. You're now back on the drum kit. I mean, like you said, a lot of interchanging parts, especially for you. Is that, I guess, well, first off, let's talk about you bringing in Jason and what the reason was to bring in a vocalist.
The way that kind of, you know, just the chips were getting laid and you know, the deals were getting dealt. It was one of those things where me getting behind the kit kind of to start writing, you know, these songs and demoing these songs. It gave me that itch again, like I should be back on drums again, man. You know, like Bob Lee was playing drums and he got injured. He had broken his leg and stuff, and things started getting really slow. And we love Bob and we do miss him, but he had some health things that were kind of keeping things too slow. So I kept on just kind of pushing forward, and by going back on drums and demoing a bunch of songs, I was like, dude, this is too much, dude. I miss way too much, man. I'm way more comfortable here than holding the guitar, trying to sing, you know. And that's the challenge I was speaking of, you know. That was the challenge that it was so much fun to do, you know. And I think that I kind of, you know, did learn so much playing guitar, you know, and I'm a better guitar player for it.
Mhm.
But you know, I'm no Eddie Glass, you know. So basically that's when it was kind of like, well, man, you know, Bob's out and I'm could play drums again, you know, and that's when Ed kind of became available. Just like I said, the way that the dominoes fell, it was just perfect, you know. And so
Mhm.
Ed was like, yeah, I'll come and jam with you guys, you know. And then as we were kind of, you know, messing around and jamming in the rehearsal studio, you know, it was like, you know, me trying to sing back here and playing drums, it's, you know, it is a
It's
little bit
tough.
limiting, you know.
Sure. Mhm.
I love doing it. It's fun, you know. I still do sing a lot of backups and stuff, you know.
Mhm.
But that's just kind of what posed the idea of let's try and find a front guy and to take care of that. And then between me and Jonathan, we could back him up vocally a lot more simpler and a lot more effective and make the band a little bit more full.
Mhm.
So that
Okay.
was the idea on trying to find a singer. Then it was trying to find the singer, you know.
Sure. Always a
Yeah,
chore.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Trying to find the drummers, trying to find the singers. I think, well, the singers and guitar players, there's always so many, you know. The drummers
Mhm.
are the ones that are hard to find, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
the
Mhm.
keyboard players, the synth players, those are the ones that are hard to find, you know. But anyway, I've known Jason for a while, and I
Okay.
never really put two and two together, you know, that he would probably be a pretty good front guy. But he's one of those guys that I don't know if it's bad to say this or if it's a good thing, but you know, he's one of those guys that don't have any shame, you know,
Okay. Mhm.
like
Just get
like
let goes up there and lets it roll, huh? Yeah.
right, right. He'll, you know,
Mhm.
you might have just met you 2 minutes ago, but you know, he acts like he's known you for a lifetime, you know,
Okay.
and
Mhm.
it makes for great PR. I gotta admit it, man. You know, like before the night's over, everyone in that bar is, you know, is his best friend. He's one of those kind of
Those
guys.
guys. Okay.
Yeah, so really, really good guy. I love the guy. You know, we all love him so much. You know, and you know he has that tinge of craziness, you know, and that tinge of loudness. Um, he loves drinking his beer, but when it comes time to perform, the guy is he's just spot on. You know,
Mhm.
he's a bit of an animal. You know,
Mhm.
so you know, I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, man, I gotta find a singer, man. I gotta find a singer, and we pitched a lot of people who are, you know, already well known as singers, you know, and
Mhm.
stuff, you know. And then I see this small little reel clip on social media of Jason just cutting a rug at a wedding. You know, it's
Oh,
like,
wow.
hey, man, this guy's got some moves, man. You know, and I was like, hey, he's looking all right, man. I bet you look pretty good up on the stage, you know. So
Mhm.
you know, so then the question was like, does he sing? You know, and like I said, he's not bashful in any way. You know, he'll go to a brewery, and if a song comes on, he'll start belting it out. You know,
Okay.
so I was like, all right, this is the guy. You know, this is the guy. You know, I'm not even going to ask the other guys. I'm just going to say this is the guy. So let's let's give him a call and let's ask him the question. You know, so I call him and I say, hey, Jason, do you sing? And his first response was, that's what I do. You know, so I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, all right. Well, do you want to come out and sing?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." So he was elated. He was like, you know, I've always wanted to be in a band. I always wanted to sing, but just, you know, I was never asked. I never knew how to get things started. You know, so I was like, oh, you must have missed out on a lot of opportunities because he's pretty damn good. You know, and he's an
Mhm. Yeah.
entertainer. You know, and
Mhm.
he's all over the stage, and you know, he carries that on before the stage, after the stage, and you know, I go, hey Jason, here's a bunch of Freak stickers. Go pass them out to the people, you know. And all of a sudden, like everyone he passes out to comes to the merch booth and buys a T-shirt or CD
Damn.
because they're
Wow.
hanging out with Jason. You know, he's got that kind of
Mhm.
fun power. So it was it was just the luck of the draw, dude. You
Really?
know,
Wow. Okay.
like I said, I've known him for a while, but me just kind of plucking him up and starting to ask him questions, it was like, see, I knew there was something about you, Jason. So I'm glad he's here with us. He's a fun guy to hang out with.
Sure, man. Well, I mean, he's a lucky guy too. I mean, for his first band to be singing for, he's playing with guys like yourself and Ed. And Ed, of course, you were referring to before is Ed Mundell. the legendary guitarist from Monster Magnet and the Atomic Bitchwax fame. So that's obviously the big question here is, I mean, you mentioned that he was available and he started jamming with you guys, but how did you really get him sort of out of, I mean, we haven't really heard much from Ed, probably about a decade or so since he left Monster Magnet. So how were you able to kind of pry him off and get him on board with the Freaks full time now?
Well, I mean, I got lucky because back in the Fu Manchu times, we did tour with Monster Magnet, and that is when I first met Ed. And I think that was like 1999,
Okay.
And then Ed started doing he created Atomic Bitchwax, and the Nebula happened, and we were both on the same label, so we toured together supporting that, and that's how we just became friends throughout all this time, and always had good times with him. So then he started this thing called Ultra Electric Mega Galactic. I mean, he's been pretty busy and stuff, but he's not the kind of guy that's, driven to kind of push things, he just likes to go with the flow, So he's doing all this kind of awesome stuff with Ultra Electric and stuff. And because he's kind of low pro, just kind of, I guess, time passed, and then the pandemic happened. And when it came time when I started playing drums, that's when I was like, well, Ed, what are you doing nowadays, man? So he was just available, and it was more so to kind of just get together with an old friend, and let's just go and jam, and we've been kind of just all having a good time, and the ball just hasn't stopped rolling since, So it was just due to keeping in touch with friends that you've made a long time ago and remaining friends, and then becoming available and going, hey man, let's reunite and let's do this. So that's kind of how it happened with Ed. I mean, he's still involved with all of his other projects. I think he, wants to write for another Ultra Electric Mega Galactic record and stuff. He still has plans. So it's not like I have him exclusively in the Freaks.
Sure.
I'm just glad that we have him in the Freaks. One, because he's a pretty awesome guitar player. Two, he's a great guy, and because we're friends. So it's kind of cool. I got to admit, this bunch of guys that we're working with, I think we actually are all friends. We actually care about each other.
That's always a good thing, man, especially the band, as you know.
It's a little bit easier to, to keep rolling down the road with each other. Brothers fight, sure. That happens all the time. But, we're a little bit older now, and we just kind of want to have fun, and by doing that, it just makes it easier because, there's not a lot of other pressures that can start to crack and chip at people.
Sure.
So, so we're just in a good position, man. We're old dudes now, and we're just rolling, and come what may, and we just keep on rolling on. So that's kind of how the band is right now. And we're a little bit more. We're kind of, I guess, less professional and more hobbyists.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's like, we have the background to where we can be professional about it and kind of, achieve things and stuff, and go on tour and make records and all that kind of stuff. But in the end, it's all because we just love doing it.
Sure.
We don't have, there's just no such thing as contracts anymore now, is there really? So with that, it kind of alleviated a lot of pressure on deadlines, all that kind of stuff. But we have to create our own deadlines, or else just nothing happens.
Sure.
So that's where I take kind of the pole position on still doing that. I'm a stone drummer who's trying to act as a band manager and trying to get these things, kind of rolling so that we can do it. And we're lucky, that it's happening.
Get away if you die.
No, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, but especially with this new record, I mean, we're going to get into talking about it a little bit right now, which is it's just a great record. I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, I think to me the two tracks that I think are really resonating with a lot of the fans of those legendary bands that both you and Ed have been in previously would be, I guess, the song "She Left Me Burning" and especially "Played for Keeps." Which I mean, that one I think is really connecting with a lot of the fans. Which of course it has really that driving, 70s hard, heavy blues rock sound, which is also something a little different too than what we've heard from the Freaks over the years. As you guys have really kind of gone, initially, obviously, the first couple of records, that's that psychedelic, spacey type of 70s rock, but there's a little bit more of a driving rock sound on some of the songs here, as well as the more mellow songs have a little bit more of a sort of a serene, I'd say even a peaceful kind of vibe to them. It's a little bit of a different sonic change on the record. So I guess talk a little bit about, just the overall direction. I mean, as a lot of the sound hasn't changed because you've got the new additions with obviously with Ed and Jason. I mean, just talk a little bit about the evolution of the band's sound on the record.
Yeah, it's ever evolving, man. And I
Mm,
love that part of the whole thing. You always hear people talk about, David Bowie. Every single one of his records was different than the one
mhm,
before. And I love that kind of viewpoint. Um, you don't want to make the same record over and over again. So
mhm,
that also poses the challenge, and I love a challenge. I love taking things on. Um, but it all comes down to just the things that influence you and the things that kind of make you move. Like I'll throw on, I mean, nowadays we have the music streaming sites, and yeah, I do have an account on one of those. I do
mhm,
listen. My daughter, me, we share, some streaming and stuff. I learned a lot from her. She's kind of eclectic on her musical choice. So sometimes
mhm.
I'll hear her playlist and go, "Hey, what is this?" So
Nice.
so that hunt is always still there. For me, like I said earlier, that's the funnest part,
Mhm,
and that's kind of how I kind of get motivated on. We can maybe use these elements here and those elements there. Um, but what really kind of got me turned on before I started writing for this record was a lot of the late 60s French yeah movement.
mhm,
We have a lot of these pop Frenchy girls with these beautiful voices doing these pop songs. But if you really kind of wipe off that top cherry, and that top icing of the actual singer on who's the cute girl today or who's the cool guy today that can sing, if you listen to a lot of the that music and you hear the backing band on that, the
mhm,
bands that kind of supplied the music for some of those Frenchy pop, in the 60s are some of the
mhm,
most amazing musicians. It's similar to watching, the Wrecking Crew do all their things, and
mhm,
stuff. So
mhm,
I was really getting into that kind of, you know, upbeat kind of driving music, but still like, well, when it comes to the stoner rock, there still could be that white knuckling driving music, and
mhm.
combining it to um so I think the real inspiration, dude, I'll lay it down, is I guess I'd rather see the girls dance than the guys headbang.
That's a good. I like that,
You know
man.
what I
It's a
mean?
lot
I
more. Yeah,
mean,
it creates for a
yeah,
better atmosphere. I would say live, especially.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I've had a couple of people like after they've seen a live show come up to me and go, "Dude, that was kind of cool, man. Like, I wasn't expecting that, but I think my girlfriend would really dig your band." you know? So we're
Sure.
trying to reach everybody, not
Mm,
just, create a mosh pit or have, just total sweat slung by hair getting whipped around,
sure.
like
Mhm,
if we can see, that we're making somebody's feet tap, that was the one fun thing about, both Fu Manchu and Nebula. And I'm hoping to continue with the Freaks is whenever we would play some dive bar, there was always the barfly guy in the back, sitting in the very back corner of the bar, not even there for the music, just there for his daily drink,
mhm,
but that's the guy who became the number one fan for the night, was that
mhm.
guy sitting alone back there going, yeah,
Yeah.
So
Mhm,
as long as it can kind of encompass everybody and make their toes tap, that was kind of like the idea for a lot of the songs on this record.
Yeah. Well, the song Jacqueline, that has that feel. I was going to bring it out. It has like that sort of 60s garage psychedelic pop, stuff to it. That was one that really stood out to me as being something definitely different.
Yeah, that's one where what I just explained, that's like
Yeah.
would be one of the key songs that can like kind of prove that statement and stuff, that song is actually an homage to that,
Okay.
There is a French pop girl who had a song called 7 a.m., and again, it's that kind of that bluesy, hard driven type of song, but done in that kind of French pop way. And then the lyrics that she's talking about, are she's just some young girl who's getting late for school, So that song actually is an homage to an actual 60s pop singer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't remember her last name. But Jacqueline, and I could always look it up real quick too, huh? Because that's the beauty of the internet, right?
Oh yeah, it's right at your fingertips. Yeah.
Yeah. But Jacqueline Tieb, I believe is her name. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, But if you do look that up and then listen to the song Jacqueline, it's basically an homage, me retelling her story.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
And that's the thing that even the band is kind of going into a new phase where, we can sit there and just write another typical stoner rock song for the masses and, but hey, let's try and incorporate something else, and attach it to it. I mean, I think that's the reason why early on we brought a sitar into the Nebula camp, just kind of like get outside of the box a little bit, but whatever moves me, man, a cup of coffee can inspire me.
Is she with me or is she with you? Who is so surprised that she can't decide? So much left that she has to do. She can't decide. Now right.
It's
sure.
Yeah, and there's no real method to how we kind of write. Right now it's kind of fun because our rehearsal room is fully set up with a 16 track mobile recording unit.
Oh wow, very nice.
So we've been recording all of our rehearsals, and all of our jams, and using that to be able to kind of, not only remember what we did, because that's always the problem, right? You forget. Remember that jam we were working on last week? I can't remember how it goes.
That's the worst. Yeah, I know.
So it's allowing us to kind of, almost like game tapes, like the football teams are, watching their old, tapes and movies and reels and stuff, and then the coach going, "Oh, why'd you do that?" So yeah, man, we're just kind of jamming along and just letting it kind of fall into place, but everyone's always spouting off like, "Oh, have you ever heard this? Have you ever heard that?" And what would be this would be a great cover, and so we're just a regular, garage band, and we have a lockout studio, and we were able to kind of like get a couple of mics up and running, and we're recording all our rehearsals.
Yeah.
I was even talking with Jonathan, like, yeah, maybe like after we put out another record, and we can always put the rehearsal tapes out, and give that to the people, as a bonus track or whatever, But yeah, man, I don't think that we really kind of abide to any certain method of songwriting, and it kind of we try to keep it fresh that way, you know.
Sure, yeah. No, absolutely.
And we know we have certain fans who really enjoy certain types of you know, tones and sounds and beats and you know, measures and timing and all that kind of stuff. You know, we always try and you know, write for people, but in the end, you know, we kind of just doing it for ourselves.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's what I mean, you have to do that for yourselves first. I mean, right?
Yeah.
When you're writing anything, you know, if you don't like it, then what's the point of even doing it, right? So,
Yeah.
it makes no sense. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about another track too I wanted to bring up real quick is the song Starstream. That's an 11-minute opus that really seemed to channel sort of your inner, I guess, Pink Floyd, maybe. It really has a little bit of a Pink Floyd kind of vibe to it. Definitely something I suggest to listeners to burn one up before listening to that one. Put on the headphones and just kind of let that one ride. That is such a cool song. I mean, talk about that a little bit because that's, I think, probably the longest track that you guys have probably ever done. 11 minutes. That's pretty lengthy for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. That also kind of, you know, downtime during the whole pandemic and stuff, you know, I acquired a really nice, decent acoustic guitar, you know, and it kind of just was a little porch type of plucking that kind of turned and steamrolled into what it became, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that also is kind of one of those songs that I think kind of help reveal that we don't want to stick to just the same schematic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we kind of wanted to you know, get a little bit more melodic and stuff, you know. I don't know if you want to call it a bit more mature in songwriting and stuff, you know. But it just was a lot of pot and guitar and a nice armless chair on the porch, and then bringing it in to the rest of the guys, and then kind of just jamming it out and adding electric guitars, all that kind of stuff, you know. When we went and recorded it, that whole kind of end section, that's off the cuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, we knew that we were going to kind of go into something from there, but we weren't sure what. Luckily, the record button was pushed. And I mean, that might have even been like the first take of that song that we did when we recorded it. And I think that's why it ran so long, because we were just in the room having a good time, you know, playing it and stuff. But yeah, it was a bit scary because, you know, once you get into that, like, you know, 7-minute mark, you better not fuck up, dude. You know,
Yeah,
you better not like blam on this one, man. Keep it going, you know. So it just kind of kept on rolling with the jam, and when it gets into that kind of crazy part, but that also kind of inspired the lyrics, you know. I guess in a way, I do admire the guys from Clutch. You know, I've been lucky enough to do several tours with them. Nebula did a bunch of tours with them. Fu Manchu. One of the very first times we ever played with Monster Magnet, Clutch was also on the bill. So Fu Manchu, Clutch, and Monster Magnet. We played some place called, I think, the Library in Arizona. Sorry, I guess the place burnt down, you know. But that's when I first met Ed and the Monster Magnet guys.
Okay.
And then that's when I first met the Clutch guys, right? But I admire Neil Fallon's kind of songwriting method, you know, because I could tell that sometimes he'll read a book, you know, or he'll read a story, or he'll read something, and it inspires him so much that he wants to sing a song about it, you know. I don't.
He's a unique vocalist.
I've known that there's been certain things where, like, okay, I totally could tell that you were reading, like, you know, some crazy sci-fi writer on this one, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Well, Animal Farm, I know you wrote the song for, you know, Animal Farm based off the book. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, he uses some of that intellect for his inspirations, and then, you know, and the same thing. Jacqueline was another song that was kind of, you know, the words were written in that vein. But I'd read a story about some guy who was cast adrift. He was a Mexican fisherman who, you know, him and this guy, his team, this 2-man boat, went out for a day of fishing because they were commercial fishermen, got caught in a storm, and he was set adrift in the ocean for 14 months and eventually washed up on some islands. And, that's when he was saved, really. But they were saying that 14 months on a boat is almost impossible to survive, but this guy survived it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, there were questions about like, well, where's your other crewmate, and he died, and eventually had to throw him overboard, and so they were accusing him of cannibalism.
I think I remember hearing this. Yeah.
And I thought, man, that's so crazy, man. Imagine being on a boat for 14 months, with your dead friend right there, so it kind of inspired the lyrics for it. I was reading it at the same time I was hearing what we were recording, so it kind of all just kind of fell into play, so it's just one of those little mad things that happened, and it all landed into place. It wasn't premeditated on how this particular song came out. We jammed it. We were recording the jam, and we were like, this is pretty rad. This is it, and well, I got these lyrics right here. Let's throw them on there, and there's that kind of end middle section that just, you can kind of feel the guy's psychosis, And so that's kind of how that song, but yeah, it is the longest song that we've ever released and stuff. And we still love playing it live. It's, we kind of go off and jam out, and, I don't know if we take a full 11 minutes when we're live just because we're conscious and like maybe our fatigue, I don't know. But yeah, that is our record length song as of today.
I just want to ask you too, Ruben. I mean, when you look back, when you started the Freaks, I mean, here you are, you had played in two of the most well-known and iconic names in the whole stoner psychedelic rock realm. You decided obviously to start with a brand new band at such a really late stage in your musical career. I mean, that takes really a great leap of faith to do so, especially in today's industry. And now you've added, obviously, like you said, one of the most well-known, respected guitarists with Ed. So, I mean, you've got a solid frontman now in the fold. I mean, do you feel like after all the hard work and years of really getting the band, to where it is now, do you feel like you're at a place that you envisioned the band being when you first decided to start the Freaks after, you'd left Nebula? I mean, just because if you look at really where you guys are now, I think that's a hard thing to do in today's music world, is to just start from scratch again and try to rebuild, your own thing, which you've now done. So are you really feel like you're at the point where you envisioned when you first set out to do the Freaks?
I'm lucky that I'm at this point right now with the Freaks, Yeah, I guess I do have this drive, which maybe I'm embarrassed to say, but sometimes, I out of spite, a little spite driven, just a little spite driven, a little Latte Larry type of thing, where, with the Fu Manchu thing, yeah, there was just, personalities that kind of didn't mesh, and that's how we separated, and that's fine. That happens, and it happened, and it's okay, but at that same time, it was just as much my baby as it was, say, Scott Hill's baby, so yeah, there was a little bit of like, what do you mean, man? You guys want to kick us out, what do you mean? You guys want to fire us? Well, we're not going to stop, so what is that? I realized that, is that a little bit of spite inside of me, saying, oh, you can't tell me I can't do this, and the same thing with Nebula, like same thing. I did it before. I'm just gonna keep on doing my thing, I don't have to stop just because I left this particular group, so maybe it's not the best kind of motivation to have, but it is a push.
Sure, yeah.
And so I pushed forward, and it wasn't always just, I'm going to show you guys, or, that's not what I mean. It was more like, hey, like, if I did it before, I could do it again. And if I did it again, I could do it again, and I'm really willing to put the work into it, because you tell you the truth, it is kind of fun, is dealing and wheeling and all that kind of stuff, and trying to figure out things, and trying to, create the solutions to the problems that are in front of you. I mean, it's life,
Sure.
So, another one was funny is, when my daughter was being born, and, another friend says, "So you're going to quit music now because you're going to be a dad?" I was like, no, I'm going to be a dad and I'm going to play music.
There you go. Uh-huh.
So, I kind of was like, is that spite? Is it? I don't know, or is it just that extra push that gives you to continue doing what you love doing? So I feel very lucky that, I had that push, nothing was going to stop me. And, I made some great friends along the way, and I was able to still connect with my friends to kind of continue on, and so, I'm very proud of where we're at right now. It was a lot of hard work, and like I said, going from playing drums to kind of playing guitar and being a front man, I mean, that was another challenge, another kind of driving a stake in my own heart, as far as being able to push forward, it was just, I created more obstacles for myself than maybe really was necessary. But I like that. I like that challenge, and I like sometimes, you fail, but sometimes when you achieve, it's that give and take of life. And I feel lucky, and I feel very honored to be playing with the guys that I'm playing with right now, and I think even more so, I'm just glad to say that, like, they're like my best friends versus just my bandmates. So
Sure.
So it took a while, and I think it needed the path in my life, the way it just kind of fell into place. Call it fate, I don't know, call it destiny, I don't know, but whatever it is, I'm just glad I kind of never stopped, and I just kept on pushing.
Well, the thing too, I mean, coming from where you're coming from too, with both, Fu Manchu and Nebula. I mean, over the last 10 years or so, we've really seen such a resurgence of that sound, that classic heavy rock, stoner rock style that's really connected with music fans. I mean, all across the globe. It's bigger now, I think, than ever, in my opinion, especially if you're in Europe or Australia. Just absolutely huge, the style of music. So, I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, as a guy, who was there really doing this from the very beginning, was one of the artists who helped really create this sound and style. I mean, are you surprised to see, just it being as big as it is now, or is it more like, it's about time that this kind of style of rock really got the traction and credit it should have had maybe years ago? I mean, what goes through your mind when you see how big the whole stoner desert psychedelic thing has really become on such a global scale over the last, decade or so?
It is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
It's a total trip, I
Mhm.
mean, when Fu Manchu, when we just changed the name from Virulence to Fu Manchu, and we kind of, revamped, from the punk rock into, the more heavy rock, and we kind of try to mesh those two together because we love that. It was funny because we would play shows and people would be scratching their heads. What was that? I mean, it was kind of cool, but what the hell was that, man? I was talking about this just the other day too. It's kind of funny that back then, we were the oddballs, and we'd get thrown onto a bill, and we'd be so different than some of the other bands that we were playing with, that people were scratching their heads. And then to have that kind of do a full circle, and now it's like, it's a trip. Now I have to agree, it's a trip. I'm very glad for it. It's awesome seeing my peers succeed. And
sure.
There was a crazy interview once, I think, with the Melvins, where like, how do you really succeed? Like, well, you don't break up. And they never broke up, and look at the Melvins right now, right? So same thing, Fu Manchu. Yeah, me and Eddie, we left, but they remained Fu Manchu, and they just kept that ball rolling. And look at them now, and they're awesome. Nebula too. Nebula, like, Eddie had a little bit of a moment where I thought he was just going to call it quits, but I think he had enough sense to say, I'm, on hiatus, because he said that, maybe down the road, somebody's going to kick in again, so he never said the band is over, the band has quit, and I'm glad that he did that, because now they're back and rolling again, so more power to them, so I'm very proud and honored to have been a part of that too, and to see it still continuing. It's fantastic. Maybe I could ride a couple of the the coattails of my old bands, to kind of help push it along, but we're just doing our own thing here, and I'm happy. It's funny because I've had this experience, and talking with Ed, he's had this experience, and we had some pretty awesome highlight moments in our previous bands, and we had these great bands that opened for us, and the joke was like, watch, the bands that open for us are going to become huge, right? The bands that are opening us for us are going to surpass us and become so huge, and it's happened so many times, like, wow. I think we did a tour where the Hives opened for us.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. From Sweden. And look how huge they got.
Huge.
Yeah. We once, this is a funny one, right? Fu Manchu did a tour with the Deftones, and Limp Bizkit opened one of those shows.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. That was like one of our early Florida shows. Limp Bizkit was the opener for the show. We were the cheese in the middle, then Deftones. So talk about like being a band out of place. You know what I mean? That's what I meant. Like, people were scratching their heads, going, "Who are you guys?" But it's kind of cool seeing that everybody is still kind of thriving out there, and people are digging it, and it did blow up a bit to the point where they are totally successful, and I guess I'm just happy that I was a part of it, so yeah. Absolutely. It's a trip, though. The simple answer to your question, it's a trip.
It's a trip, yeah. Well, no, and it's a good point, because I'll be honest, I remember first hearing Fu Manchu. I didn't get it. I really didn't get it at first. It was, I grew up in New York, and there was a radio station in Jersey there called WSOU, and they played Fu Manchu all the time in between all these other heavier and more angrier type of bands. And I think that's what it was. It just had such a different vibe to it. I just didn't know what to really think of it, and maybe it was when I moved out to California that maybe I started really, smoking the good weed and stuff out here. I really started to really, be like, okay, now I really get it, and I love this shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was definitely something. I think what it is too is a lot of the a lot of the people like my age, mid 40s, late 40s, in the 90s, growing up. As you get older, how it is, everyone sort of mellows out, right? You stop listening to a lot of the faster and angrier stuff. And then
not necessarily stop, right? But you start hearing, you start broadening your horizon.
There you go. That's it. That's a better way to put it. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So it's just cool. Everybody just kind of stuck to their guns, man. And everyone just kept the ball rolling. Me, I had to do it in a couple of different camps, but I kept on rolling. So I'm okay with that. Like that's the deal I was dealt. I'm happy to be jamming with the guys I'm jamming with now, and I'm happy to be, looking forward to some, some good shows and some road work, coming up, and so it's going to keep us kind of rolling down, and it keeps giving me the inspiration to keep on pushing the band down the road,
Sure.
So, yeah, it's hard nowadays, like anything else, just trying to survive. But in the end, I think I'd be a terrible person to hang around with if I couldn't play music. I become a total ogre, man. I kind of got to get together with the guys and kind of got to get loud, and I want to sweat a little bit, and that's why I'm so glad and happy to to have given the opportunity to do a different position of the band, but to get back onto the drums where it's where I'm supposed to be. I'm really happy about that. Man.
Sure, man. Oh, absolutely, man. Well, yes, the Freaks, if you're in the Southwest or the West Coast, make sure you go see these guys live. As you mentioned, earlier, you really haven't really experienced, I think, the band until you see them live. I saw you guys up here in San Francisco during the Heavy Psych Sound Fest a couple of years ago, and you guys just did, I mean, that was just a phenomenal job, just a great, the vibe, like you were saying, it was so different than the rest of the bands, when you guys came on compared to the rest of the bands. You guys just have definitely your own thing going, and it's just a great time. The lineup additions, of course, I'm sure the experience is going to be even better now. So to the fans out there, listeners, go ahead and go see them live. And also, once again, Miles of Blues, the new record from the Freaks. It's available for purchase digitally as well as on CD. So, Ruben, where should we send the listeners and viewers to go so that they can buy the record, check out other releases, keep up with tour dates, and all that good stuff?
We do have a website, www.thefreaks.com. I'm not so savvy on how to update that, so sometimes it's a little bit slower updating there. But there are buttons and links to all the other social outlets that we have on that website. Bandcamp is the classic thing, or if you do go to that www.thefreaks.com, send us a message, we receive it, so you'll be dealing directly with us. Same thing on any other social platform, whether it's the band or mine personal. Just hit me up, man, and I'll hook you up.
Very cool. All right, well, there you have it, everybody. Once again, the Freaks, Miles of Blues, out now. And Ruben, thanks so much for joining me, Aftershocks, and good luck on the road with everything. And hopefully we'll see you back up in the Bay Area pretty soon too.
Right on, Matt. Thank you so much for the invite. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.